Morning. So, bago tayo mag-start ng ating lecture number 7, magkakaroon muna tayo ng math drill. So, sa una nating math drill, kailangan natin i-simplify itong expressions na to. So, ang gagawin natin, kukunin natin yung product ng dalawang monomials na to, 4a squared, b to the 4th, at 2ab. Apply natin yung isa sa mga laws of exponents na product rule, na kung saan i-multiply muna natin yung numerical coefficient and then add the exponents only. Okay, so magkakaroon tayo ng 4. Ita-times natin siya sa 2. Tapos, dahil yung bawat isang monomial ay may parehong variable a, ang gagawin lang natin ay i-add lang po yung ating exponents. So, dito sa kabilang a, may exponent yan na 1. And then, dito naman sa b na part, ang exponent nito ay 4. At dito sa pangalawang b, ang exponent niya din ay 1. So, i-add lang natin yung mga exponents na may parehong variable. So, ang magiging product nitong dalawang to ay 8a cubed. Galing siyang 2 plus 1 sa exponents ng a. At b to the 5th, galing siya sa exponents ng b. So, sa number 2, gagamitin natin law of exponent dito, yung tinatawag na power rule. So, yung outer exponent na to will be distributed on the expression. So, we have here 3 squared. So, we have 3 squared. X squared. Then, multiplied by the outer exponent. Then, y cubed times, again, the outer exponent. So, the result will be 9x to the 4th, y to the 6th. So, dito sa pangatlo, paano natin ito sasagutan? Kailangan natin i-distribute yung outer exponent sa loob. So, sa bawat isa, para lang din yung number 2 kanina, magkakaroon ka ng d raised to 2 times yung outer exponent na 4 over f to the 4th times yung outer exponent na 4. So, ang magiging result niyan ay d to the 8 over f to the 16. For number 4, this is what we call zero exponent. So, since this is a monomial and its exponent is 0, by the concept, any number or expression raised to 0 is equivalent to 1. So, number 5, kailangan natin simplify yung negative exponents. So, ang m raised to the negative squared over n raised to negative 4th, kailangan gawin natin positive yung negative na exponent. Paano natin gagawin yun? So, una, since we know that any number or variable or expression raised to negative exponent will have its reciprocal, no? So, ito, we can have it as 1 over m squared. So, yung negative 2, magiging positive na siya. Okay? And then, yung n raised to negative 4th is equal to 1 over n to the 4th. So, naging positive na yung exponent na 4. So, magkakaroon ka by the simplifying complex fractions, parang ganon. Magkakaroon ka ng 1 over m squared over 1 over n to the 4th. O, ibig sabihin lang nun, 1 over m squared divided by 1 over n to the 4th. Ano yung rule ng division? Para lang kayong nagde-divide ng fractions. So, we need to copy the numerator since this is the numerator, the 1 over m squared, your division process or operation will be converted into multiplication and then get the reciprocal of the denominator. So, paano siya? We can write it as 1 over m squared, okay, times 1 over, the reciprocal, no? So, magiging n raised to the 4th over 1. Okay? So, by multiplication, we can cross out 1 since 1 divided by 1 is also 1. The final answer will be n to the 4th over m squared. So, para lang siyang yung kapag may negative exponent sa numerator ay ibinaba mo lang siya para maging positive kung naobserbahan ninyo ha. At kung may negative na exponent sa denominator ay nilalagay lang siya sa taas. Yan. So, the answer is n to the 4th over m squared. Okay, so another activity tayo. So, yun yung math drill natin kanina, yun yung application ng rules of or laws of exponents. So, kailangan i-master ninyo yun. So, for our next activity, identify the shaded part in the figure. So, ilang parts ba yung figure? So, meron kang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, this is how to write, okay, shaded parts in terms of fraction, no? So, ito, ilan ba yung parts ng ating figure? There are 6 parts. So, isusulat mo siya as the denominator. This will be the number of parts of the figure. Now, ang tinatanong is yung shaded part. So, ilan yung shaded part? There are 4. So, you have to put it on the numerator. So, magiging 4 over 6. By the rule in mathematics, you need to simplify your answer. So, since 4 over 6 can be reduced to its lowest term by what? Dividing both numerator and denominator by 2, since 4 and 6 are divisible by 2. So, the answer will be 2 over 3. So, and this figure is represented by 2 over 3 or 2/3. Now, just like what we did on the first part, how can we reduce 4 over 12 on its simplest form? So, 4 and 12 are both divisible by 4. So, we need to divide it by 4. So, the lowest term of 4 over 12 is 1/3. That's how to reduce the fractions to its lowest or simplest form. So, para sa lecture number 7, ang title ng ating topic, so definition of rational algebraic expressions. So, yung ginawa natin kanina sa ating activity na kung saan nag-recap tayo sa mga fractions, kasi ang fraction is a rational number wherein it can be expressed in the form of a over b, wherein b must not be 0. Okay? So, a and b can be any of the integers. But then, there is an exemption that your b must not be equal to 0. So, tulad ng ginawa or nakuha natin kanina sa ating activity. So, same way with the rational algebraic expressions. What is a rational algebraic expression? So it is a ratio of two polynomials provided that the denominator is not equal to 0. In symbol, we have P over Q, where P and Q are polynomials and Q is not equal to 0. So here are the following examples. 5 over 3x, a minus 1 over 3, b plus c over b minus c. So, tignan natin kung bakit hindi po pwedeng maging 0 yung denominator. So, another key concept. What is domain? It is the set of all values of the variable that are allowed or permissible to be. So, ito yung ating gagamitin para malaman natin kung yung expressions na nabanggit ay isang rational algebraic expression. The domain of rational algebraic expressions. First is to set the denominator to 0. Second is find the solution set of the resulting equation. Third is the elements of the solution set should be excluded for the set of real numbers. So let's have an example. What is the domain of 10 over x? So the first thing to do is to set the denominator as 0. So magiging 10 over 0. And then the second is to find the solution set of the resulting equation. Since x yung nasa denominator, we can write it as x equal to 0. And then the third, the elements of the solution set should be excluded from the set of real numbers. So, ibig sabihin, kung ano yung value ng unknown na binigyan natin sa solution set, it will be excluded. So, hindi siya kasama. Paano natin ngayon isusulat yung domain ng ating expression? So, it will be the domain is equal to all real numbers except 0. So, lahat ng real numbers ay pwede maliban lang kay 0. Kasi, balikan ulit natin yung definition ng rational algebraic expressions. Ang rational algebraic expression, bawal po magkaroon ng 0 as to the denominator. Okay? Bakit po hindi po pwedeng magkaroon ng 0 sa denominator? Kasi po, it will result to it will be undefined or meaningless. Okay? So another example, what is the domain of x plus 5 over x minus 5? So again, first is to set the denominator as 0. So for our solution, una natin gagawin is to set the denominator to 0. So x plus 5 over 0. Second is to find the solution set of the resulting equation. So, yung x minus 5 na denominator, i-equate natin siya sa 0. So, by addition property of equality, both sides nag-add tayo ng 5. So, pag sinimplify natin siya, x is equal to 5. Third is, the elements of the solution set should be excluded from the set of real numbers. Since ang nakuha nating value of x is 5, it will be excluded from the set of real numbers. So, yung domain natin is all real numbers except positive 5. Kasi kung isinama natin si positive 5, okay, obviously, it will result to 0 denominator. And going back to the definition of rational algebraic expressions, the denominator must not be 0 or unless it will be undefined or meaningless. Okay? For our next topic, under pa rin siya ng ating rational algebraic expressions, we have to translate phrases or sentences or even words into mathematical expressions. So let's start with this. The quotient of 4x and 3y. We all know that quotient is the term being used to get the result of division. So, paano natin siya isusulat? So, since ang tinatanong ay quotient of 4x and 3y, we can write it as 4x divided by 3y. So, that's how to translate, to write phrases or words into mathematical expressions. Second, the sum of m and n divided by their difference. So, you have to read and understand each word of the phrase. So, sabi niya, sum. So, ibig sabihin, ang gagamitin nating operation ay addition. And then, it's also stated the word divided by. So, ibig sabihin, meron din siyang division. At saka, sabi niya, difference. Ibig sabihin, meron din siyang subtraction. So, how can we write it? So, since binanggit yung phrase or word na sum of m and n, so we can write it as m plus n. Then, sinabi din niya na divided by. So, divided by their difference. Ibig sabihin, ang tinutukoy niya yung m at n. So, sinabing difference, it is minus. So, m minus n. So, that's how to translate or rewrite that phrases or that phrase into this expression. Next, the reciprocal of the product of A and B. I'll repeat, the reciprocal of the product of A and B. So, how can we write it? So, ganito ang pagsulat ng reciprocal ng product ng A and B. So, reciprocal siya. Magiging 1 over AB. Next, 10 times a number y increased by 6. So, paano natin siya isusulat? So, 10 times a number y. So, ang nire-represent na number ay y. So, 10 times y. 10 y. Increase by, ibig sabihin, addition yan. 10 by 6. So, yan. 10y plus 6. Yan ang ibig sabihin o yung expression ng phrase na yan. Sunod, a number k raised to the 4th power. So, madali lang to. So, we have to write it as k. Since this is the number, raised to the 4th power. So, 4th power. Yan. The product of P and Q divided by 3. So, pag sinabing product, pag sinabing product, hindi na tayo gumagamit usually ng ganitong symbol, no? So, dito sa algebraic expressions, pwede na nating isulat as PQ. Yan. PQ, that is the product of PQ. At binanggit niyo yung divided by 3, so over 3. Okay, so that's the end of the lesson about rational algebra expressions. Hope you learned something today. Have a nice day.